What's happening, all you beautiful people? I'm Mikey. I'm your host tonight. This is The Strange Road, and we got some strange happenings coming your way. We've got a fantastic episode for you guys. Got a lot of things happening right now. We're streaming in Instagram. We're streaming in YouTube. We're streaming in X. I'm down here, Brolo Solo, trying to put all this together today. We've got a great episode for you guys, and we're going to be covering the Khafre Pyramid SAR research project and these scans from the middle pyramid, the Khafre Pyramid as it's known, and also trying to weed through some of the stuff that are being discovered in the JFK files. So there's a whole lot of documents, and I've been keeping my eye on a lot of this stuff. You guys can hear me now. We got local legends. We got Born Not to Run, the best moderator in the land. We've got Stoner's dad. What's up, brother? How you guys doing? Heather Lamb, Stookie, my boy from brother from another mother. We've got Chasing Mound Builders, the Neo-Mythic Scribe. What's up to all you guys? Hopefully you guys can hear me loud and clear. Like I said, we got a great episode tonight. I'm going to try to get through it, but make sure you guys follow us on X, follow us on Instagram, hit that like, subscribe, got to hit that notification bell. All you guys listening, we appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you. We're trying to grow all of these channels, so we're trying to reach out as much as we possibly can. Hence, trying to stream on X, YouTube, and Instagram tonight. And we're trying to get the word out there. We appreciate if you guys share all of these episodes. If you dig The Strange Road, we dig you. Let's make it happen. We can do this together. So let's hop into it, guys. We've got a lot happening right now. What's under the Giza Plateau? This has been a mystery for hundreds and hundreds of years. There have been people that have been philosophizing going back thousands of years about who built the pyramids, what was the technology, what's underneath the Giza Plateau, going back even a decade and beyond. Even going back a decade, researchers like Andrew Collins and Graham Hancock and Robert Schoch and a lot of these guys, Andrew Collins discovered a chamber many years ago that I've watched him recently talk about, and how potentially that chamber that was kind of poo-pooed by mainstream archaeology and the Egyptologists, Zahi Hawass, which we'll talk about him a little bit later. And, it's Andrew Collins. Hey, people should be giving that guy props right now because, could this chamber that he discovered be connected to this massive labyrinth that supposedly has been discovered by the Khafre Research Project? But we're going to get into some of the what people are saying about this. If this scan technology is legit, is it not legit? Did they actually find something? Are they using artificial intelligence to create these images? Well, yes, they are. Does that mean it's not legit? I don't think so. But we're going to get into that. So everybody's been buzzing from X to Reddit to YouTube, creating videos. We've kind of been, on the outside, kind of looking in, keeping an eye on as everything comes out. As you guys know, I don't like to cover things right off rip when it hits. But we definitely want to kind of let the dust settle a little bit and see where things are falling in place, and not jumping the gun too much and saying, oh my God, this is the biggest discovery ever, when it comes out in a month or so, that it was all garbage. It was all some kind of a way to make money, which I don't think this is the case with this. I think the gentlemen that are involved in this Khafre Pyramid SAR project all seem to be very relative, very capable scientific people that have been doing this type of work for a very long time. I think they have credentials. You guys can look into these folks. So let's start with the basics here. The Khafre Pyramid is the second largest pyramid in Giza. It's built around 2500 BCE, wink, wink. As far as mainstream will let us know. So could it be older than that? I personally think it is, but who knows? That's what all the textbooks say. So is there something hiding underneath the sand? Something that challenges everything we've been taught. And that's where the story begins. It's a team of researchers who claim they've peeled back the curtain with cutting edge technology. And so who are these guys? The names that are popping up are Corrado Malanga from the University of Pisa and Filippo Biondi from the University of Strathclyde and Armando May. So these gentlemen are Italian researchers, and this entire thing came about March 15th. There was a conference in Italy when these gentlemen gave a presentation. The images, like I said earlier, were basically leaked from this conference. So a lot of the early confusion with this whole thing was because there was no official press release, because this was a private conference, which has been a way to kind of, discredit all of this information as well. It wasn't, peer reviewed, and it wasn't sent up the chain properly. They kind of put together this conference. Some people are kind of poo-pooing the production quality of the conference. And I'll tell you, as somebody that works live events, it's not bad. They had IMAX screens. They had, you could see picture in picture with the speaker. It really was a well put together conference. So whoever's saying that, you're full of it. It was well put together. I don't speak Italian. I can't read Italian and understand it. But I think some folks have said, Dan Richards from Debunking YouTube channel, if you guys have never checked Dan out, he's a really, really interesting guy, super skeptical. And it's, picture in picture, just like 1998. That's right. And it's not bad though. The presentation they put together was, again, it was for not public consumption. It was not live streamed. There was a ticket that, the press could get a hold of a ticket. And so they sold out very quickly. Just recently, last week, we'll pull up the Facebook page, the official Facebook page from the Khafre Project, SAR Technology folks, and some of the channels that they're now kind of, after this is all leaked, they've tried to release through the proper channels, through their channels. I just don't think that they were really prepared to release all of this stuff. Once it was leaked, they just didn't have their ducks in a row in the proper channels to kind of, do a whole legitimate press release with, I guess you could call it what people expect, like CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or somebody to cover this. I don't exactly know what people were expecting to get from this, but I can tell you they're not newbies to this stuff. They've been tinkering with SAR technology for years. Back in 2022, they published a paper in the Journal of Remote Sensing titled Synthetic Aperture Radar Doppler Tomography, which basically revealed in details of undiscovered high-resolution internal structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. So, but basically they use SAR or SAR radar system that sends out energy pulses and reads what bounces back. So the hidden structure, without cracking any stones, without digging down deep, one of the reasons Egyptologists and, I think a lot of things have really kind of held back a lot of Egyptology and archaeology is because they cannot dig under the ground. They can't dig. So one of the things that they have to do is use GPR and LiDAR and all of these kind of non-invasive ways to do research. So, this is something that people have been calling for forever. Now, here it is. And of course, you're getting people like Flint Dibble and Zahi Hawass that are just saying this is complete garbage. It's complete bullcrap. The technology has never been tested. Why didn't they roll this out before this giant project? Well, I'm going to actually show you a couple things from their presentation. And it's just a screenshot or a hold on their presentation where they actually did scan a few really giant structures where there were known tunnels and hidden chambers underneath some large dams across the world, and they were able to locate these structures where they knew where these subterranean voids would be in these large hydroelectric dams. And so to say that they haven't tested this is complete bull, Flint Dibble. They have tested it. Okay, it seems to me that you didn't bother watching the presentation. Maybe you're like me and you're trying to read subtitles and you're just, you don't really understand how to read, scanning radars and all of this technology. To me, it's foreign. You're an archaeologist. Some of the folks that are kind of weighing in on this stuff, I'm not really sure what your background is in being able to read different scans like LiDAR and this technology. I'm digressing. So, I'm getting a little fired up because I hear a lot of these guys talking right off rip that this is totally bogus, but it's so early. Like, let's let the dust settle a little bit. Let's let their proper channels of folks come out. Now they are through their Facebook page. Now they are through their YouTube page. And so... So like I said, March 15th, Malanga and Biondi, they dropped a bombshell. This was in Bologna, Italy, Hotel Castello Armedia Congressi, to be exact, the hotel. They claimed their SAR scan revealed a mind-blowing subterranean complex under the Khafre Pyramid. So there's 5 identical structure near the pyramid's base. I'm going to actually pull this up for you guys real quick. Let me pull up this Facebook page. Here's the gentleman right here. We're going to just hit this picture-in-picture real quick for your viewing pleasure. I always forget to take that off. There we go. So there's Corrado, there's Armando, and here's Felipe. We're going to get to know them a little bit more here. But let's look at some of the scanned images here. I'm just going to flip through. I guess I was on the end of my scan. But some of you guys may have seen these images that are floating around. And this is kind of the big one that was leaked through several different channels and X and YouTube, and there's some guys that got a hold of some of these images pretty quickly. But basically what we're looking at here is an artificial intelligence rendering of the scan data that they received. And so what we're looking at here is 8 vertical wells, cylindrical, hollow, spiraling down 648 meters. That's over 2,100 feet, folks. Twice as deep as the Eiffel Tower is tall. Okay, and it's at the bottom. The bottom of these wells are connected to 2 massive cube-shaped structures. Each of them are around 80 cubic meters each, 80 by 80 by 80 by 80 on all sides. We're talking a network stretching nearly 2 kilometers under the Giza Plateau, because underneath that, they're saying, is a whole labyrinth of tunnels and all kinds of things happening underneath these 4 giant cubes below the cylinders, okay? So it seems to me like if this is real, there's an entire underground world happening under here. One of the researchers has been a guest on Gaia. He's been on, the Ancient Origins website. He's been a blogger. He's a gentleman that's been talking about, they found the Halls of Amenti. And for those of you that are familiar with the Halls of Amenti and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, we've talked about some of this stuff. And that's what really flipped me out, is they actually, in this presentation on YouTube, they mention right off rip, we've discovered the Halls of Amenti. Which is what Thoth in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth talks about, these subterranean worlds underneath the Giza Plateau. Some people, including my guy Chasing Mound Builders out here, that says that M. Doreal, maybe he made up the Emerald Tablets. Maybe that story isn't historically accurate, but the, Thoth and the information that comes from Thoth was a real deity, but did he come from Atlantis? Was he a 30,000-year-old being? Did he create the Emerald Tablets? Did he do all of these things? Who really knows? But they did use the terminology, the Halls of Amenti, were found. Okay, that's what really got me. So how do we know this? So where do the images come from? Well, here's the juicy part. Okay, it popped up, like I said, from this conference, and there's an Italian museum group claiming that this entire event was sold out. They did post about it on LinkedIn, and so they were really hyping up Beyondi's Doppler tomography technology. Problem is, there was no official press release, no video, no photos, and no social media. So just whispers from the screenshots. And I'm just going to flip over to this real quick. Right here is the YouTube channel where you can watch this entire presentation. Let me just go full screen there for you guys. The YouTube channel is Expedition Nicole Ciocciolo. Sorry if I butchered your name, Nicole, but I think she's like the PR or marketing person for the Khafre Project group. So all of these presentations are rolling out on this YouTube channel here. Okay, so we'll get into some of this stuff. I just wanted to pop that up there real quick for you, but we're going to go through some of these images here. And so let's just unpack what this could be. Okay, so mainstream Egyptology insists the pyramids are tombs. End of story. But these findings, they don't sound like burial sites. Even in the King's Chamber, in the Great Pyramid, the Queen's Chamber, they've never found a body. There's no hieroglyphs inside the King's Chamber or the Queen's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. It looks mechanical. It seems like there's potentially some kind of an element for, Christopher Dunn talks about the Giza power plant, and some people have looked into this. Greg Reese is one of these people from the Reese Report on X. He had one of the earliest videos out on this subject, actually. And so is it mechanical? Is it a functional system? Think Nikola Tesla technology that's harnessing essentially the Earth's frequencies. And Christopher Dunn's Giza power plant theory, he said where the pyramids generate energy through acoustics. Okay, another one of our favorite conversations that we love to have on this show. And this could be conduits, the cube storage unit. The cubes could be a storage unit. These columns, they have a spiral. The tubes themselves are hollow, and they go really, really far down deep. Now, but there's a passageway that spirals around, according to these scans, if they are real. Could this be ancient city or pre-flood technology? I'm not really sold just yet, but I'll admit it's hard to say that this was a tomb for the pharaoh Khafre. But whatever it is, can you excavate? Can you get down in there and dig deeper? But the Egypt's government has a chokehold on this. The Giza Plateau is highly, highly protected with people like Zahi Hawass, who's been, making sure that people haven't been doing digs for a very, very long time. He's the former Ministry of Antiquities, and he's already shot down a lot of this information that's coming out. On March 23rd, he told Arum online, there's no evidence of pillars or structures under Khafre, just solid rock. Is it a cover-up? Or is Zahi Hawass just doing his job? So this is a press release. The way the press release was kind of handled with these guys, it doesn't really help their cause. It was a little bit fumbled, in my opinion. I think it could have been rolled out, and they could have been able to silence some of these guys. What's happening, Mopar Phil? Who else we got? Raymond, what's going on, guys? Heather Lamb, you guys are all here. Chasing Mound Builders. Much love to all of you. So let's dig a little deeper. So the conference leak, a little sketchy, like I said, but why is there no peer-reviewed paper? Okay, there's the 2022 study that I mentioned earlier was solid, but these new claims, they're floating on blogs and Substack posts. That's the big part of it. Critics on Reddit, on like Reddit Conspiracy, point that the SAR technology struggles to see 600 meters deep. There's Flint Dibble was on Pierce Morgan with Richard from Dedunking YouTube channel, and Jimmy Corsetti and another gentleman. I can't really remember his name right off rip. But Flint Dibble, he really had some rough things to say about this technology, saying that it's never been tested. And there's no real world application, which is just not true. It is just not true. I watched a video that Dan Richards put out, and he laid out how NASA themselves have an entire layout on their website talking about SAR technology and how it's being used. I'm going to have to scroll down, a little bit past where we're heading here, but, basically what, Flint Dibble claims it's untested, therefore it's garbage. The scientists and archaeologists are using SAR data to help uncover lost cities and urban-type infrastructure hidden over time by dense vegetation or desert sands. Space archaeology. You can go view the NASA Earth observatories peering through the sands of time and secrets beneath the sand. These are two apps apparently on their website. I haven't gotten a chance. I just kind of ran into this. But NASA has an entire thing on their website all about this technology, talking about how it's been used in uncovering lost civilizations and, pulling back dense vegetation and desert sands. Those are the exact words, which is what these guys are doing here. Let's go ahead and move forward a little bit with these scans. And again, I'm not an expert. Maybe sometime we'll have Jeffrey Wilson on to, he did scanning work for NASA years ago, I think, when he was, doing his thing in Michigan still. And, one thing Jimmy Corsetti had mentioned was these images right here that you're seeing, how did they have this kind of straight on view of these pillars? How is it that they're using satellite technology? So the scans aren't coming from devices over top of the pyramid. They're actually coming in, and this is actually kind of a nice image here to give you guys an idea of what we're talking about. So these are basically, the planes are flying over and they're shooting all of these scans, all of this, these lasers, if you will, in multiple different directions, and they're going back and forth, and they're also using satellites to basically come in at an angle, and then from what they're saying is they're taking all of that data and they're using imaging technology to kind of make these images. So that's where you're losing some people, right? Because it's like anything else, what the flat earth people talk about when they talk about, oh, well, the earth, all of the images of the earth that we see are actually just copied together, a bunch of small photographs, high resolution photographs, and they stitch them all together to get the large view of Earth. And that's like the smoking gun to the flat earth people that NASA's been hiding that the earth is really flat. Well, in these kind of situations, you have to use computers. From what I understand, it's the only way to really make a visual picture of what it is they're capturing. And so, again, I am not an expert by any means on this stuff. It's very, very fascinating. But here you can see that these columns are going down pretty damn far into the ground. But how are they generating this? That's the big question, and that is what is got the internet fired up right now. And they kind of go out on a limb a little bit. And again, when the English version of this entire conference comes out, I'll be able to really dig into this. But here in the caption, and this is the Khafre Research Project SAR Technology official Facebook page. So these are images, official images coming from their team. And so it says the satellites have detected anomalous structures beneath the pyramid of Khafre. The structures extend along the northern side and have tuning fork shapes. I don't really know. I don't really see that. I mean, I can kind of see what they're talking about here, but I don't know. It could be kind of a stretch. I think there is some, 1 + 3 = 5 going on here, where you can try to interpret this data really any way you want. But I think that just calls for more research. And so here is an image of, these are these structures that seem to look just like the structures that are in the Great Pyramid, the King's Chamber. And I actually have something here that kind of shows us that. This is an image of the King's Chamber here. And so this image here is what they're saying is there are 5 of these King's Chamber structures inside the Khafre Pyramid. And so below, these are where these giant tubes with the spiral walkways, the spiral, I guess you could call them hallways that go down into the ground, where you have the 80-meter by 80-meter cubes that are at the bottom of these giant tubes. Okay, so that's what also is basically they're saying are 5 of these inside the Khafre Pyramid. Now that's pretty compelling. I can see that structure. It's up to you guys, but here's another one where you're seeing these kind of side angle. And again, they're coming at an angle. It's not like these are taking photographs, but they're using computers to create what this is. So they're blasting sound acoustics into it, and the resonant frequencies that kick back are what they're using as eyeballs, essentially, to see what's under the ground. Can they go down that far? Is that technology that advanced? I have no idea. But yeah, and here's another one here too of some of these tunnel systems that are underneath the Khafre Pyramid in this particular slide. And so, yeah, so there's those guys again. But so like I was saying, there's your kind of your Doppler radar. Okay, and so what I was saying earlier is this is the Masulo Dam. This is a dam. I'm going to go full screen here just so you guys can see some of these tunnel systems that they were able to find. I'm going to actually just go full screen for you guys here. So you can see this tunnel here, right? Everybody can see this tunnel. And here on the scan, they're showing you, okay, well, here is that tunnel. And then also here is the, there's another section here that I'm going to try to just slightly skip forward here. These are some of these underground chambers right here. Yeah, so this is what they're looking at. So Flint Dibble, to say that they should have done this before they went to the Khafre project, before they went to the Khafre Pyramid, they should have done this somewhere else. Flint, you didn't watch the presentation. I'm a stoner YouTuber, and I at least gained some of the things that that prefaced this entire operation, and to make these guys look like they're some just cuckoos that come out of nowhere with all this technology. When you have NASA saying SAR Technology is legit, you're saying that they've never tested this technology anywhere else, when clearly here it is in their presentation at the Mosul, the La Diga di Mosul Dam. I think this is somewhere in Italy, where they were able to find subterranean structures. Now they know those structures are there, but their technology picked this stuff up. Okay, so you can't say that. Sorry, you just can't say that. So here you go. Here's another, and I'm still full screen. Let me go widen out here. So again, don't read Italian, but this is the Great Pyramid. There is where you can see the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber. This is the Great Pyramid. And I think that they're utilizing this as one of the scans that they did in 2022. This is what they're referencing. And so, again, same artificial intelligence, using AI to essentially create an image or a map that we can look at, and we can look at to try to make sense of what these scans are kicking back. Okay, that's what these images are. And again, do with it what you will, but it is compelling, and it needs right off rip 2 days, 3 days. You got people jumping on these guys, calling them pseudoscientists, and they're not. They're legit scientists. They're just not archaeologists. They're not Egyptologists. That's why everybody's getting butthurt. Because the archaeologists and the Egyptologists, they don't want people coming in to their territory and saying, oh, we might have some new information. So immediately they're on defense, which I think is complete garbage, man. It's just complete bull. I just did that whole rant. You guys couldn't even see me, luckily, because my forehead's probably bulging out right now. It's just frustrating. Like, let's give these guys a chance. I'm not sold on any of this stuff. But I'm not the guy that's, we're just here to talk about it. We're here for, us to unpack this stuff and try to understand it together. And so let's kind of get back to this here a little bit. If I can find my spot, I kind of skipped ahead a little bit. So here we go. So Corrado, the gang, everybody from Zahi Hawass to Flint Dibble, everybody's talking crap. It's multi-level structure, 8 deep wells, the lack of official press release, not great. But at this time, now there is an official formal follow-up. There is an official press release. It's on Facebook through a Facebook page. It's not even a page. It's not a Facebook group. They do have the YouTube channel. But these guys are scientists. Like, they're not marketing geniuses. And Richard from Debunking actually had a great point that a lot of times for several big discoveries in the past, that they have actually utilized these type of conferences to basically get people fired up about the information. That way they can get funding and then go ahead and do a real legit dig or bigger scans. These conferences have been known to roll out information like this in the past, has been very, very helpful to many mainstream discoveries. So you can't just jump on them full force it's private. It's behind the scenes. You didn't, this was their press release. The conference was their press release, everybody. So, did they do it the way Flint Dibble or Zahi Hawass would do it? Probably not. I'm like screaming into this microphone right now. I actually have to turn my audio levels down. If I got Sam Thompson and Disbro in the chat, let me know if I'm too loud here. But we're gonna hop through this one more time. I don't want to do that, so let's hit pause there. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to, in case some of you guys might not know who I am, if some of you guys came a little bit late, I am Mikey. This is The Strange Road, and we got strange happenings happening right now. We're having a blast tonight. We're trying to get through this stuff, and it's just man, I fat fingered that guy big time. That was terrible. But there's so many things with folks. You know what? I need to find this real quick, guys. That's all right. I lost it. No big deal. So let's go through synthetic aperture radar real quick, or SAR technology. Using radio waves like bat uses sound. It creates high-resolution images through obstacles by tracking how long it takes for the waves to return and combining data from multiple positions. Its ability to penetrate clouds, soil, and sand makes it ideal for finding hidden structures underground, like those possibly beneath the Khafre Pyramid. While some claims about this depth penetration are debated, Some people don't believe it can go that deep. But is it a valuable tool in archaeology and other fields? Absolutely. And it's providing a new way to see beneath the surface without causing damage. Doppler tomography is also used with SAR. This is something they did on this project as well. Basically, it helps to just pinpoint the accuracy. It just helps the accuracy a little bit, and pinpoint and map it out a little tighter. And so, let's see, we've got a couple more. So on Ancient Origins, you can find some of Armando May's blogs from the past, where he does talk about divine tools of energy. I can kind of hit that real quick for you guys. But this is Armando's Ancient Origins. We've used Ancient Origins a bunch for articles in the past on strange happenings. But there's Armando's blog. He does talk about divine tools of energy, which I don't know if that's why they're getting some bad press, because Armando's been on Gaia. He's got blogs on Ancient Origins and some of these, what they would call fringe websites. I'm not real sure, but that could be one of the reasons, but who knows. So let's hop into Loving Life. Newbie here. Welcome, Loving Life. Welcome. We got any other newbies in there? Pop it in the chat. I'll give you a shout out. We appreciate you guys so much for coming and hanging out. We've been trying to be super consistent with episodes. Every Monday we're either live streaming or doing a premiere. During the week, if we've got the whole crew, we'll trying to live stream and do strange happenings. Trying to get some more episodes out there in the week. My guy Little Comb, shout out to him if he's in the chat. Little Comb, my nephew, been helping out with all the reels, the TikToks, all the short form videos, YouTube shorts. He's been absolutely crushing it. You guys have probably seen some Midnight Mike's clips and reels are starting to roll out right now. We got Mike Ricksecker coming up, and then after that, David Matheson. If you guys haven't seen those episodes with Mike Ricksecker, David Matheson, Midnight Mike, make sure you guys go check that out. If you're new to this channel, Julie, what is happening? I see you in the chat as well. But these type of streams are really just a great way to connect with all of you guys. It's a bit laid back. As you can see, I'm just hanging out down here in Master Control all by my lonesome. Stoner and Bub are out having adventures with their families and doing their thing tonight. And so I'm down here kicking it. Rollo's not even down here. I'm literally down here by myself. He would have annoyed the hell out of me tonight if he was down here. So I left him at home. But shout out to Rollo. Shout out to Stoner. Shout out to Bub. Love you guys. Miss you guys. But Mikey's down here rolling solo. And I must have just deleted that page that I had. But whatever. You guys are with me. You guys are here. You're rolling with me. No matter how bad I'm stumbling through this, I know you guys are going to be there, and you're the best. I couldn't ask for anything better. But let's hop into some JFK files. You guys want to hop into some JFK files? I think we've covered about all we can cover with this Khafre Pyramid situation. So we're gonna actually, you know what? Let's do this fun thing real quick. Have you guys seen this? Somebody had to have seen this. This is clips, photos, videos in the UK, over Ireland. I don't know, but hey, I've seen this on X. I've seen it on YouTube. I've seen this on Instagram. I've seen this on TikTok. Like, there are people all over the UK that have photographed this spiral in the sky. What is going on here? Doing great tonight. Oh, thank you so much, Stoner's dad. I really appreciate you, brother. Hope everything's going great with you. Much love, much love to you. But this spiral, guys, what is going on? This is your South End. I mean, these are all X posts. But yeah, and the thing is that it's one of the videos. I wasn't really prepped to do video playback because I couldn't figure out how to get the audio working. I have to have old Stone help me out with that at some point. But there was a video that looked like that spiral started to spin, dude. It was spinning and it was getting bigger and it was moving. But, you know, I don't know how many countries this has been seen in. But, you know, a lot of people have seen this spiral. And this happened last week. At some point. And like I said, we were going to do this live stream on, we were going to do this, you know what, hang on a second. I'm going to stop this stream and Instagram. All you guys are out there. There we go. All you guys hopped over to our stream here on YouTube. Much love. Did we ever find out if that X stream got audio or not? If that ever hit? If not, whatever. I really don't know how to fix that. So it's gonna have to just be what it is. All you on X, I know you can't hear me, but come over to YouTube. All right. So the spiral. No idea what's going on here. If anybody else has some information or more about this spiral thing, hit me up. Born Not to Run. Thank you much for checking that out. You know, it could be just something simple. No broadcast. That's interesting. Live. Yeah, it says it's live now. Well, anyways, let's hop into some JFK stuff, guys. So, National Security Archive. This is where you're going to find these. You know, I did go on and I did look up some of the documents that people have been talking about that were heavily redacted. So Trump released a lot of these files in 2017, 2021. You know, throughout the last few years, there's been an effort to release more and more of the JFK files. One of the issues is that they were heavily redacted. And so a lot of these documents are not new documents. They're just the unredacted documents. So there isn't a smoking gun here. There's no smoking gun that said there was a second shooter on the grassy knoll. You know, there's not a smoking gun that shows that Oswald acted alone, that he had, you know, that Oswald did or didn't do it. So there's not really anything that points to some smoking gun where we can point at it and say, this is exactly what happened in 1962 when JFK was assassinated. Did I expect that? No, not really. I didn't expect that. I'm going to take this little mic off me too. We're done with that. So what it does tell us is it reveals details about the CIA's surveillance activities and overall comings and goings, and kind of unpacks a little bit about how the CIA operates, which I found really fascinating, even if we don't have the smoking gun. Okay, there's a lot we can learn. And I know in the last live stream, I kind of went off and talked about the Zapruder film and, you know, just going from memory, some of the stuff that, you know, over the years that I had learned about, you know, what actually happened with multiple shooters and so forth. And so, you know, Kennedy reported mistrust of the CIA over and over and over again. We're going to just go full screen here because I'm sure that my veins going to be popping out of my head at any moment here. And so, did we gain any further insight into Lee Harvey Oswald's activities? Yes. There was some stuff about Lee Harvey Oswald and the things that the CIA were keeping tags on him. So there's not really major findings that Oswald did or didn't act alone, but the documents provide new perspectives and details on various aspects of the assassination and the context, including the inner workings of the CIA, the FBI, and during which was a very turbulent period, not just for JFK and his relationships with the FBI and the CIA, but overall, you know, this is post-World War II. We're really at the beginning of the Cold War. And so the CIA surveillance operations the unredacted documents shed light on the CIA activities during the Cold War, particularly their activity and surveillance of the Soviet embassies in Mexico City. They detail efforts to recruit double agents, from the Soviet personnel, including names and positions of those recruited, and a list of phone numbers, all unredacted, and tapped. These phone numbers were tapped by the U.S. government. One memo highlighted that the CIA's monitoring of an American described as a communist living in Mexico, though it didn't seem to mention Lee Harvey Oswald by name, despite his known visits to the Soviet Union and Cuban embassies. So in Mexico City, this is weeks before the assassination. They're keeping tabs on someone that's got Soviet connections in Mexico City, which could or couldn't be, might or might not have been Lee Harvey Oswald. So JFK's mistrust of the CIA, the files reveal new insights into President Kennedy's skepticism toward the CIA, including details on the CIA plots to assassinate Fidel Castro. This aligns with historical narratives suggesting that Kennedy's frustration with the agency, particularly after events like the Bay of Pig invasion. I don't know if I ranted about the Bay of Pig last episode, but the Bay of Pig was an absolute shit show. Excuse my language. We're going to have to mark this explicit on Spotify and Apple and YouTube. I really don't give a damn because this is big boy adult shit we're talking about here. The Bay of Pigs was a false flag operation that Dulles and basically had taken all of these Cuban refugees that left Castro's Cuba and fled to Miami. So like the movie Scarface with Al Pacino, that right there is a window of time where the Cuban refugees are coming from Cuba into Miami, and Al Pacino's character becoming a drug lord through that whole. He was a Cuban refugee. A lot of these guys were criminals. A lot of them, all of them, hated Fidel Castro. Castro was kicking out, the people that were non-socialists, the capitalists. The mob had a giant problem with Castro, which is why a lot of times you hear about the mob being tied into the JFK assassination. Meyer Lansky and some of these guys that were, really detrimental, that were really, were doing business, tons of business in Cuba. The mob had, prostitution rings. They had giant casinos, and they're making millions and millions of dollars. Okay, here comes Castro, and he puts an end to all that. Sam Giancana and all these mob dudes got chased out of Cuba. Hit the ground running. They come back, they lose all their casinos. And so the CIA starts working with the mafia and starts working with the Cuban refugees. And Allen Dulles, in all his infinite wisdom at the CIA, decided that they were going to dress up Cuban nationals as the Cuban refugees, and basically impersonate a false flag attack on the U.S. And so the Bay of Pigs was a ruse the whole time. And it never actually went through. This operation didn't go through. And by the way, George H.W. Bush, they were going to use his boats, his oil tankers, and some of their ships actually to pull this off. So George H.W. Bush comes up in the Bay of Pigs. He was a CIA guy back in the day, and so he was wrapped up into a lot of this shady stuff. But they were going to pull a false flag attack, and using these Cuban refugees to goad Cuba into attacking what were dressing them up as a United States ship, vessel, whatever you want to call it, and then they would get Cuba to attack them, and then we could start the war. Well, JFK said, "No, you're not doing that, Allen Dulles. You guys aren't going to do that. That's ridiculous. Like, you're going to start World War III here. We just got over World War II." And so, they didn't like that. Allen Dulles, the CIA, a lot of these guys that were part of the Bay of Pigs operation, Sam Giancana, the syndicate is what they called them. That's Meyer Lansky and the Italian mafia and the Jewish mafia. They were really super, super powerful. And they were a part of, doing business across seas. Like you guys hear about, USAID and some of this stuff that's going on with how intelligence agencies are using kind of NGOs to kind of fund different operations to overthrow governments and these kind of things. Well, the mafia really helped them do that early on. The liquor barons, the Bronfman family, they were tied up in all the Epstein stuff. The liquor barons from Canada, they really taught the FBI and the CIA how to set people up with honey traps. All the Epstein stuff, that none of that was new. That the liquor barons and the FBI and the CIA had refined that stuff during these times, even before these times, in like the 1940s and 50s. I'm getting a little beyond my script here, but with this kind of stuff, as it's coming to me, it's so dense. It's so deep that there's so many webs that connect back and forth with all of these groups. And you can't just say it's the CIA. You can't just say it's the mafia. You can't just say it's Cuban refugees or hell, JFK wanted to end the Federal Reserve. That's he wanted to do a lot of things that just never happened. And thank God it didn't, because we would be sitting here super, super concerned right now. And so, JFK had a lot of mistrust in the CIA, mainly because of the Bay of Pigs and among other things too. So Oswald's activity in the CIA propaganda, the documents provide further details on the surveillance of Lee Harvey Oswald in Mexico City and CIA propaganda operations involving him before and after the assassination. This includes CIA cables and memos discussing Oswald's interaction with Soviet and Cuban embassies, confirming the agency's close monitoring of him prior to November 22nd of 1963. That's in these documents, y'all. One thing I do want to show you guys too is another place that you can get all of this information is the National Archives. If you guys are really, and this is all going to be linked in the description. I'm pretty sure I already did that. But there you go. The National Archives. You guys, if you want to really dig into this stuff, there it is. There's the Executive Order 14176. Tulsi Gabbard. It kind of goes through who was all involved with making all this stuff happen. So there's the assassination records. We're not going to pull up any of the specific documents. It's so dense. I mean, it's just unbelievable. We're kind of just going over a few of these things here, and I'm going to pull up something real quick for you guys. Okay, it looks like that was it. So Oswald's activity, 1963, the documents related to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy were also included with this. There were approximately 2,400 newly discovered FBI records, 500 documents that remain classified. So this was supposed to be all of them. And then right up to when they were released, the FBI says, oh, by the way, we have like 2,400 more newly discovered documents, and there's 500 that are still remain classified. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Well, there's no smoking gun. No shit. Because there's still 500 documents that remain classified. The 2,400 newly discovered records, we haven't even got those yet. So what are in those? And who's been holding on to that? The National Archives is eventually going to get the 2,400, but will the 500 ever be declassified? I don't know. And this is why the speculation has continued to fuel not just Americans, but people all across the world. Kennedy was a world-known leader. People from all over the world loved John F. Kennedy. The Kennedy Democrats, the Kennedy Republicans. He was a guy that went across all races, across all genders, across all political parties. One big thing is because he didn't want war. He did not want war. He was fighting against the secret societies, a very famous speech, the military-industrial complex, the Federal Reserve, the mafia. By the way, maybe the mafia, his dad kind of put something together where the mob kind of helped him and his brother maybe get elected in Illinois. Very mob connected to the city of Chicago. Illinois politics has always been super corrupt. I mean, that's just a well-known fact. I have family in Illinois in the Chicago area. It's just well-known that Chicago politics have always been connected to the mob and have always been super duper corrupt. So did JFK maybe get help from the mob to get elected? That's why, when he started, Bobby, his brother, he started going after the mob and started putting cases against them. Maybe that was the reason why they killed Bobby Kennedy. Who knows? But there's a lot there, man. And maybe we'll never understand it. So one thing is that people were really kind of freaking out about right away. And you got to really be careful here, because in no way, shape, or form is The Strange Road or me, Mikey, in any way, shape, or form an anti-Semitic, racist. I love all people. If you knew the background of my family, which a lot of you in the chat do, my kids are mixed. My wife is mixed. My brother-in-laws, I have mixed nephews. I have black nephews. I have, people from Jewish folks in my family on the wife's side, Indians. It is like a freaking UN meeting when my wife's family and my family get together. It really is like a freaking UN meeting. So I'll just say that. And some of the things we're going to talk about isn't related to Jewish people. It's related to Israel. It's related to Mossad. It's related to the intelligence agencies connected to the state of Israel. I love all people. But when there's times that you're connected into the 9/11 reports, really weird things with, Mossad and Israel, with the Epstein files, and here we are in the JFK files. Israeli agents, Mossad, popping up. Well, they're supposed to be our allies, and you can get in a lot of trouble. The lobbies of those groups are very, very powerful. I'm sure this video here will get demonetized just because I'm talking about it. And you know what? I really don't give a damn. I really don't give a damn, because this is all stuff you guys can look into for yourself. And this is by no way focusing on the Jewish people in any way. But it's just like, well, Americans, we don't like to be viewed going around to African countries and Venezuela. And, we've committed how many coups? Not we. We didn't do that. You and I didn't do that. The CIA, the deep state aspects of our government, they're the ones overthrew Venezuelan dictators and propped up African dictators and people that had America's interests, whether it be oil or down in Venezuela, the rubber trees, or United Fruit Company, or whoever it is. We've been responsible of doing super shady shit around the world. And Israel's intelligence, MI6, MI5 of British intelligence, they all work together. And the CIA and the Mossad and MI6, these guys all have networks, and sometimes you have double agents. And it's kind of proven too. Before I move on, one thing I did forget to mention is that Lee Harvey Oswald, there was a KGB representative that actually showed that Lee Harvey Oswald, out of all the propaganda we've spewed about Lee Harvey Oswald, that he actually had no connection to Russia, that the whole time he was actually an agent, probably working for the CIA against Russia, when the whole thing was that he was a Russian agent and he had double-crossed us. Well, this KGB guy's saying, no, Oswald he was not working for Russia in any way, shape, or form. And with Oswald's words himself, he was just the patsy. That's what Oswald said right before Jack Ruby, a day or two later. Jack Rubenstein was his real name. Murdered him on TV in cold blood. So here's the key findings from unredacted files with having mentions of Israel or Mossad. So James Jesus Angleton and CIA Mossad ties. The March 25th release included unredacted documents highlighting the role of James Jesus Angleton, the CIA's chief of counterintelligence from 1954 to 1975, who also managed the Israel desk starting in 1951. Angleton maintained a close relationship with Mossad, acting as a liaison between the U.S. and Israel intelligence. Some files revealed that Angleton's connections to Israel intelligence were previously redacted, suggesting an effort to conceal the depth of this collaboration. So, for example, an unredacted portions show Angleton subverted JFK's policy of preventing Israel from acquiring nuclear weapons, a point of tension between Kennedy and Israeli leadership. However, these documents do not provide direct evidence that Mossad or Israel orchestrated or participated in the assassination. Instead, they indicate routine alignment with Israeli interests. That's the thing that everybody should understand. Couldn't put this any better. George Carlin said you don't need an official conspiracy to overthrow a government. You don't need an official conspiracy to pull off something. It's just that interests converge. When interests converge, you don't need a formal conspiracy because they all go to Yale. They all go to Harvard. They're all, they're all the Rhodes Scholars. Okay, they're all running the big banks. They're all CEOs. They all sit on the same freaking boards together. And you don't think these high-level, old-school dudes like Dulles, he's got a freaking airport in Dallas, Texas named after him. He's one of the shadiest dudes ever. And Alan Dulles got his start because guess what? He was a high-end lawyer that worked in the big boy leagues of corporate America. Alan Dulles, when the OSS was basically started by lawyers because they had all the international connections all over the world. So, however, these documents do not provide direct evidence that Mossad or Israel orchestrated. I'm sorry, I already read that, which some researchers speculate could imply a motive, but lacks concrete proof of involvement. So Reuben Efron, he's a Jewish CIA operative. Earlier releases noted in 2023, but relevant to the 2025 context, identified Reuben Efron, a Jewish CIA agent who immigrated from Lithuania and later lived in Jerusalem, as someone who monitored Lee Harvey Oswald's mail before the assassination. The 2025 unredacted file confirms his role, but do not expand this significantly much beyond this, nor do they link his involvement, which appears to be a part of they don't link really to his official standard CIA surveillance. Okay, so he doesn't appear to be a part of the standard CIA surveillance apparatus. So is he an operative? Is he just some dude? But he's got connections in some way, but it's hard to point due to these documents of what was actually happening here. Let's go back to and just have that up there. So, some of these you can kind of get an idea of, and I'm just going to pull this up for you guys. Un momento. And this is what we're looking at here when we're talking about unredacted files. This is an example. This isn't exactly what we're talking about here. But 2017 is on the left. 2025 is on the right. And this is page after page after page after page. That is a massive amount of information that was redacted until 2025, until March. And by the way, this all came out the day before the Khafre Pyramid stuff was released. So magically, we have the JFK files get unsealed, and then a day later, all this stuff about the Khafre Pyramid just blows up and kind of just takes over all the JFK news. It really did take over X, YouTube. A lot of people were just, so the timing of that leak, this is where it all kind of gets weird, man. This is where it all kind of ties together. A lot of this stuff, it's not an accident. There's really, really, really smart people that are coordinating this stuff, I believe. And the timing is just too weird. Now, I'm not going to say I'm buying into all this. It's a giant conspiracy, but when interests converge, you don't need a proper, laid out, formalized conspiracy. Okay? So, number 3, Israel's nuclear program and JFK's opposition included unredacted documents from 2025, include references to JFK's efforts to curb Israel's nuclear ambitions, particularly concerning the Dimona reactor. A notable example is a previously redacted CIA request to withhold mentions of Israel in relation to its nuclear program, now fully disclosed. This reflects Kennedy's pressure on Israel. Let's go back here. Boom. Here's some more redacted information just to kind of pull up for you guys. A notable example is a previously redacted CIA request to withhold mentions of Israel in relation to its nuclear program. Now fully disclosed, this reflects Kennedy's pressure on Israel's Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, which conspiracy theorists argued for years could have motivated Israel's involvement. However, no unredacted file explicitly ties this disagreement to the assassination itself. Just a policy friction between the two. General mentions of Israel in intelligence operations. The files review broader Cold War era intelligence collaborations between the CIA and Israel services, such as Mossad's assistance in operation against Fidel Castro's Cuba. In October 1961, analysis of the Communist Party in Israel, or Maki, and other documents show Israel and U.S. allies in monitoring communist threats. But these are tangential to the assassination. No unredacted sections directly implicate Mossad in planning or executing JFK's death. Clearly, no one's saying that. It doesn't prove any of those things. The only thing these redacted files show us is that there was some weird communications going on with some Mossad agents and folks from Israel. This is all important stuff. As American citizens, we should all know and understand the best we can. There you go. This is a section where they're actually talking about how they're working in Mexico City. He had recruited. Let me zoom in here just a tad because that's hard to read. Recruited 3 sub-agents before leaving Cuba, but his channel of communications with them has been severed. Another station agent is in good position in Cuba to obtain intelligence from foreign telephone communications. The legal situation will attempt to reestablish contact with him through a legal traveler to Cuba. The station has a number of sources with success to Cuba in the third country nationals who are debriefed each time they return to Mexico City from Cuba. Best of these is a Western European who was the source of some 15 disseminated it's hard to read, man. Well, there you go, guys. You guys can look this stuff up for yourself. It's really, really hard with these terrible scans to read these digitally. But here is another section here, if I can read this. Yeah, so there's where it talks about the Soviet Union, us doing telephone, they're taking photographs, there's physical, there's audio recordings of comings and goings of people in Mexico City and communists in Mexico City. And, maybe this guy, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. Who knows? So yeah, there we go, guys. Very intriguing stuff. I kind of just ranted through a lot of that, but I really want you guys to know that, this is a lot of stuff to sift through, and it's going to take probably people years to really go through this. But I feel like, folks that have been ahead of the game, people like Oliver Stone and some of the documentary filmmakers and, the church committee hearing, which we talked about a little bit the last time, when they basically said that, the JFK commission was complete garbage, that the lone bullet theory, the magic bullet theory, was untrue, that there's no way, that there pretty much was a conspiracy, and the CIA had something to do with it. So they've known about this for a long time, but we've never had the documents to show exactly what's happening. And it doesn't seem like we still do. So I know some of you guys are probably frustrated, disappointed that more didn't come out from the JFK documents, but I think there was some good stuff. I think there was some interesting stuff that really just, again, showed us how the CIA operated back then. What they were up to, the shady stuff, the surveillance of not just us, but the surveillance of people like Martin Luther King Jr. and the Kennedys, and how they were manipulating people through these NGOs and through the mafia and through the people that left Cuba, and there's so many things that they'll never waste an opportunity to run some kind of operation that's going to benefit them. Do I think that they need to be reeled in? Absolutely. I mean, if nothing else, that's what these JFK files show, is that the CIA has been running wild, man. You think that all of a sudden after MK Ultra and after all of these things, they got caught red-handed with Operation Mockingbird, all of these operations that they're doing, sowing dissent and overthrowing governments and using NGOs and USAID, all the shady shit that they've been doing. Do you really, really think that all of a sudden one day they're going to stop doing that? No, we need to, be more aware that this stuff's going on, and we can't allow people to keep doing what they're doing, these groups. And I'm sure there's a lot of great people in the FBI and the CIA and all of these groups. But at the top, we gotta start reeling this stuff in, man. Because, we're getting towards, it's getting creepy. There's signs of the civilization crumbling before us. One thing I've really loved for my whole life is to read history and read about Greece and Rome and the fall of all these civilizations. And boy, it does seem like we can draw a lot from how the Soviet Union ended, and even modern times, of how a lot of civilizations have come to the end where it's infighting. They were in too much debt. They let, the bureaucracy class of that civilization took over. When the people no longer had control, even the emperors and the presidents and the people running the show weren't really running the show. Let's not have history repeat itself. Let's come together. Let's have peace. Let's be kind to each other. Let's try to understand what the other side is talking about instead of getting triggered. And that goes for both sides. That goes for everybody on every side. Let's all try to come back to the middle a little bit. We can see, where everybody's coming from again. We used to be able to have these conversations and talk to each other. Hanging out with some of the fellas and some listeners at the Serpent Mound Star Knowledge a few weekends ago was great, man. Like, I really needed that break. Born Not to Run and Heather and chasing mound builders and some folks that we met that had listeners to the show that came to hang out, and they got wind that I was going to be there, and we got to hang out in the parking lot. Like, I probably didn't even make it into the event. We were probably out there, guys, out in the parking lot for, I don't know, probably at least 2 hours. I walked in and Terry and Tom were like, "Hey man, what's up?" I was like, "I've been here for a couple hours." Kind of got caught up in the parking lot having some just amazing conversations. But that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. All the people we talked to that day, they don't come from the same place I come from. They don't have the same thoughts that I do, but we can all agree on so many things. So many things. That's my rant, and I'm sticking to it. You guys rule. You guys are amazing. And I just want you guys to know where you can find us. We're at The Strange Road, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We have the Facebook group. I'm going to be booting up the Discord channel again. All of you in Discord, we've got Patreon coming, getting launched very, very soon. So if you guys want to support the show, I did kind of forget to talk about super stickers and super chats. Maybe it's too late for that, but I got all excited trying to run 3 live streams. Mikey the Loner tonight down here. I think it was super successful. Hopefully you guys had fun. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and that notification bell, and come back, hang out, and we'll keep this baby rocking. Love, peace, and chicken grease. We're out.